Chosen one, you are a different type of earth angel, not the soft, accommodating kind that suffers in silence, but the fierce, boundary-enforcing kind that makes people humble themselves in your presence, whether they like it or not. Your very existence is a cosmic disruption that forces fake people to face their masks, manipulators to confront their games, and the unconscious to wake up to their dysfunction. You've been selected for something far greater than the small story you've been living, and the cosmic forces are finally ready to show you why your life has felt like a series of impossible tests. You see, chosen one, you came into this world with a frequency so pure, so luminous, that it threatened the established order before you spoke your first word. Your natural state of unconditional love and boundless compassion made you a target from day one. They sensed it in you before you even understood it yourself. This ability to heal with your presence, to transmute darkness just by existing, to love so deeply that you could literally resurrect dead hearts and breathe life into barren souls. And they knew that if you ever fully awakened to your power, their game would be over, their illusions exposed, their false kingdoms would crumble, so they deployed their most sophisticated weapon against you, your own beautiful heart. They took your greatest strength, your capacity for love, and turned it into your greatest vulnerability. They taught you that love meant sacrifice, that caring meant suffering, that being spiritual meant being a doormat for everyone else's dysfunction. They convinced you that your empathy was weakness, that your boundaries were selfish, that your need for reciprocity was somehow unspiritual. They made you believe that to be good you had to be small, and to be loved you had to be useful. And for a while, it worked like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of manipulation. You poured yourself out like water into cracked vessels, wondering why you always felt empty, why your cup never seemed to fill no matter how much you gave. You gave and gave and gave, until you forgot what it felt like to receive, until receiving felt foreign and uncomfortable, until you convinced yourself that giving was your only value. You become addicted to their approval like a drug, desperate for their validation like oxygen, willing to dim your light just to make them comfortable in their darkness. You thought love meant losing yourself in others, not knowing that true love requires a self to give. Your breaking point wasn't your destruction, it was your construction. That moment when you finally said enough, when something deep inside you rose up like a sleeping dragon and declared war on everything that had been diminishing you, that wasn't surrender. That was your shadow self stepping forward to protect what your light had been too generous to guard. That was the divine masculine within you, finally standing up to defend the divine feminine that had been giving herself away. Your darkness isn't your enemy, it's your guardian angel wearing a warrior's armor. It's the part of you that learned to say no when your heart only knew how to say yes. It's the protector that emerged when your inner child needed someone to finally fight for them. It's the boundary setter that finally understood that love without limits isn't love at all. It's self-destruction masquerading as spirituality, martyrdom disguised as virtue. And this is where you began to intimidate them, chosen one, where the tables turned and the student became the master. This is where you went from being their favorite victim to being their greatest fear, because when a chosen one stops seeking external validation and starts validating themselves, when they stop looking for love outside and start radiating love from within like a nuclear reactor of self-worth, when they stop asking permission to exist and start commanding respect simply by being, that's when the whole game changes, when the entire matrix shifts. Suddenly, you weren't available for their drama anymore. Suddenly, you couldn't be manipulated by guilt or controlled by their emotional tantrums. Suddenly, you were looking at their offers, their breadcrumbs of affection, their conditional love, their drama-filled friendships, and saying, "No thank you, I'd rather be alone than accept less than I deserve." This simple statement became your declaration of independence, your emancipation proclamation from the slavery of seeking approval, and this terrified them, chosen one, because your transformation held up a mirror to their own stagnation. Your boundaries exposed their boundary violations like searchlights illuminating cockroaches. Your self-love revealed their self-hatred in stark contrast. Your peace highlighted their chaos, like silence highlighting noise. Your authenticity showed up their masks, their performances, their carefully constructed facades. You became a living reminder of what was possible when someone chose themselves, and that made them deeply, viscerally uncomfortable. This discomfort you create in others isn't a bug, it's a feature. You're not meant to make everyone comfortable, you're meant to make them conscious. Your very presence is designed to trigger awakening in others, whether they want it or not, whether they're ready or not. You enforce humility simply by being yourself, because authentic power always humbles false power, because real always exposes fake. This is why you feel like you're being watched, chosen one, why you sense eyes on you even when you're completely alone. The universe itself is observing your transformation with fascination and pride, like a parent watching their child take their first steps. Your ancestors are leaning in from the other side, finally able to see one of their bloodlines break the generational patterns that have bound your family for centuries, like invisible chains. Other chosen ones scattered across the planet, like seeds in fertile soil, are feeling your shift in the collective consciousness, drawing strength from your courage to choose yourself, your bravery to break free. But the Watchers aren't all benevolent, and this is where the plot thickens, where the stakes escalate beyond your personal transformation. There are those who track chosen ones like you because they know what you represent, the end of their reign, the collapse of their systems, the exposure of their lies. Your awakening signals the collapse of structures built on keeping powerful souls small. Your self-love threatens industries built on your insecurity. Your boundaries demolish the foundation of relationships built on your depletion, your exhaustion, your willingness to be used. This is why the path of the chosen one is often a lonely one, at least initially, like walking through a desert before reaching an oasis. As you step into your authentic power, you'll find that many people who claim to love you will suddenly become unavailable, suddenly busy, suddenly unable to recognize the person you're becoming. They'll accuse you of changing, of becoming difficult, of being too much or not enough. They'll try to guilt you back into your old role as their emotional caretaker, their personal savior, their perpetual giver, their emotional dumping ground. And this is where your training in the darkness serves you, chosen one, where all that pain reveals its purpose. All those years of being rejected, abandoned, and betrayed weren't punishments, they were preparations, boot camp for your soul, strength training for your spirit. You learned to survive without their approval. You discovered that you could be alone without being lonely, that solitude could be sanctuary rather than punishment. You found that your own company was actually quite pleasant once you stopped trying to be someone else for everyone else, once you stopped performing and started being. The isolation that once felt like exile now feels like sanctuary, like a sacred temple where you can finally hear your own thoughts. The solitude that once felt like punishment now feels like paradise, like coming home to yourself after a lifetime of being lost in others. You've learned to go within for answers instead of seeking them from people who don't even have answers for themselves, who are as lost as you once were. You've discovered that your connection to the divine is direct and doesn't require any intermediaries, any priests or gurus or teachers, just you and the source of all creation. This is when the real magic starts happening, chosen one, when the universe begins to reveal why you had to walk through hell to get to heaven. This is when you begin to understand why you had to lose everyone else to find yourself, why you had to be broken down to be built up, why you had to die to your old self to be born into your true self. In the silence of your own company, you start hearing voices you never noticed before, not the harsh critics that used to dominate your inner dialogue like a toxic radio station, but the wise ancestors who've been waiting patiently for you to quiet the external noise long enough to receive their guidance. You start remembering things that feel both new and ancient, like déjà vu mixed with prophecy, your purpose on this planet, your mission in this lifetime, the specific frequency you came here to anchor in the collective consciousness. You begin to understand that your sensitivity isn't a weakness but a superpower, that your ability to feel everything so deeply is actually your gift to a world that has forgotten how to feel at all, that has numbed itself to avoid pain, and in doing so has also numbed itself to joy. And then something extraordinary happens, something that validates everything you've been through. The very people who rejected you when you were seeking their approval start becoming curious about you now that you've stopped needing it. They sense something different about your energy, a confidence that isn't arrogant, a power that isn't dominating, a peace that isn't passive. They're drawn to what they can't quite name, your authenticity, your groundedness, your unshakable sense of self. Now that you've found your center, now that you've learned to validate yourself, now that you've discovered your own worth, you're faced with a new challenge that will determine whether your transformation is complete. Do you let these people back in? Do you risk your hard-won peace for the possibility of genuine connection? Do you dare to love again after learning to love yourself, after discovering that you are enough all by yourself? This is where your transformation reveals its true purpose, where all the pieces come together like a cosmic puzzle solving itself. All that work you did in the darkness, all those boundaries you built like walls around a castle, all that self-love you cultivated like tending a sacred garden, it wasn't to keep you isolated forever. It was to prepare you for a different kind of relationship, a different way of connecting, a different form of love entirely, one based on choice rather than need, abundance rather than scarcity. You're no longer looking for someone to complete you, because you've discovered you were never incomplete, just taught to believe you were broken. You're no longer seeking someone to save you, because you've learned to be your own hero, your own knight in shining armor. You're no longer desperate for someone to choose you, because you've chosen yourself so completely that their choice becomes a bonus, not a necessity, icing on the cake rather than the cake itself. This is where you become dangerous to the old paradigm, chosen one, where you become a walking revolution. This is where you become a threat to every institution, every relationship model, every societal structure built on codependency and scarcity, built on the lie that we are separate and lacking. Because when a chosen one learns to love from overflow instead of emptiness, when they connect from wholeness instead of neediness, when they give from abundance instead of depletion, they model a completely different way of being human, a blueprint for a new earth. And this is where the watchers multiply exponentially, where your influence ripples out like stones thrown in still water. Not just the ancestors and other chosen ones now, but ordinary people who sense something different about you, something they can't quite put their finger on but desperately want to understand. They can't name it, but there's something about your energy that makes them want to either get closer or run away. You make them uncomfortable because you're comfortable with yourself. You challenge them because you're no longer challenging yourself. You trigger them because you're no longer triggered, because you've found your unshakable center. Now let me put you on to something real, Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks, while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play, and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. This is your power, chosen one, your superpower that no one can take away. Your mere existence is a catalyst for consciousness. You don't have to preach or teach or convince anyone of anything. You don't have to wear a sign or carry a banner or start a movement. You just have to be yourself, your authentic, boundaried, self-loving self, and you automatically create a field of possibility around you that says to others without words, this is what's available when you choose yourself too. This is what freedom looks like. This is what peace feels like. Some people will rise to meet this frequency, like flowers turning toward the sun. They'll be inspired by your transformation and begin their own journey of self-discovery. They'll ask you how you found your peace, your power, your purpose, and they'll actually listen to the answer. They'll want to learn from your journey without expecting you to carry them through their own, understanding that each person must walk their own path to freedom. But others will be threatened by what you represent, terrified by the implications of your transformation. They'll try to dim your light by calling it too bright, too intense, too much for their comfort. They'll attempt to shrink your presence by calling it arrogant, selfish, or unspiritual. They'll work to undermine your confidence by calling it pride, your boundaries walls, your self-love narcissism. They'll project their own limitations onto you and call it being realistic, call it being humble, call it being grounded. All those years of having your light dimmed by others taught you to protect your flame like a sacred trust. All those experiences of being misunderstood taught you that your value doesn't depend on others' comprehension, that pearls are still pearls even when swine can't appreciate them. All those moments of standing alone taught you that your truth doesn't require external validation, that the sun doesn't need permission to shine. You've learned that some people will love you for who you are, and others will hate you for the same reason, and both responses are equally irrelevant to your worth. You've discovered that some people will be inspired by your growth, while others will be threatened by it, and neither response should determine your next step. You've realized that your job isn't to make everyone comfortable with your evolution. Your job is to keep evolving, to keep growing, to keep becoming more of who you really are. Your personal transformation is actually a planetary healing, your individual awakening, contributing to a global consciousness shift that's been building for millennia. Your journey from victim to victor, from seeker to finder, from wounded to whole. This isn't just your story. This is the story of humanity itself, and you're playing a starring role in the greatest transformation our species has ever experienced, the birth of a new way of being human. But the universe isn't done with you yet, chosen one. As you stabilize in your new frequency, as you become comfortable in your own skin, as you learn to navigate the world from this place of inner fullness, you start to notice something remarkable happening. The very qualities that once made you a target now make you a magnet for authentic connections. The sensitivity that was once exploited now serves as a radar for genuine souls. The love that was once taken for granted now attracts people who know how to cherish it. You begin to attract a different caliber of human into your orbit. People who have done their own work, who understand the value of boundaries, who appreciate authenticity over performance. These aren't the broken birds you used to collect, hoping to heal them with your love. These are fellow eagles who recognize another eagle when they see one, who understand that true partnership happens between two whole people, not two halves trying to make a whole. That spark you felt at the beginning of this message, that recognition that ignited in your chest like a flame being lit from another flame, that was your soul remembering what it came here to do. You didn't accidentally stumble into this awakening like someone wandering into the wrong room. You didn't randomly attract all those challenges, like lightning striking randomly. You didn't coincidentally develop all that resilience, like some cosmic accident. You were specifically designed for this moment in history, precisely crafted for this level of transformation, intentionally equipped with exactly the sensitivity, the strength, and the stubborn refusal to settle that would be required to break the patterns and birth the new paradigm. Your DNA carries the codes of revolution, your heart holds the frequency of freedom, your spirit embodies the blueprint for humanity's next evolutionary leap. You are a different type of Earth Angel, chosen one, not the kind that suffers in silence or martyrs themselves for others' comfort. You're the kind that enforces humility through authenticity, that commands respect through self-respect, that inspires transformation through your own metamorphosis. You're the kind that loves so fully and completely, starting with yourself, that you become a living demonstration of what divine love looks like in human form, what heaven on earth actually means. You think you've been learning to love yourself, but what you've actually been doing is remembering how to love yourself. You think you've been developing boundaries, but what you've actually been doing is returning to your natural state of energetic sovereignty. You think you've been growing stronger, but what you've actually been doing is shedding the false layers that made you appear weak. The person you're becoming isn't new, it's who you've always been underneath the conditioning, underneath the programming, underneath the lies they fed you about what it means to be human. Every moment of clarity you experience now isn't discovery, it's recovery. You're not building a new self. You're excavating your true self from beneath the debris of other people's projections and expectations. This is why your transformation feels so natural once you stop fighting it, chosen one. This is why stepping into your power doesn't feel like putting on a costume, it feels like taking one off. This is why setting boundaries doesn't feel aggressive, it feels like coming home. You're not learning foreign concepts, you're remembering native truths that your soul has always known but your mind was taught to forget. And this remembering process creates what can only be described as a spiritual earthquake in your reality. Everything that was built on false foundations starts to crumble. Relationships that were held together by your dysfunction begin to fall apart. Situations that required your smallness to function suddenly can't accommodate your bigness. People who were comfortable with your wound become uncomfortable with your healing. During this renovation period, chosen one, you might feel like you're losing your mind. One day you'll feel completely aligned and powerful. The next day you'll question everything and wonder if you're making terrible mistakes. This isn't confusion, it's calibration. Your nervous system is adjusting to operating at a higher frequency. Your energy field is expanding to accommodate more of your true essence. Your consciousness is stretching to hold paradoxes that once would have broken your brain. This is where many chosen ones get scared and try to go back to their old ways, their old patterns, their old limitations. They mistake the discomfort of growth for evidence that they're going in the wrong direction. They interpret the falling away of old structures as punishment rather than renovation. They see the temporary chaos as permanent destruction rather than the necessary clearing that precedes new creation. But you're different, chosen one. You've been prepared for this moment through every trial you've endured. You've learned that sometimes things have to fall apart before they can come together in a way that actually serves you. You've discovered that comfort isn't always good for you, and discomfort isn't always bad for you. You've realized that your peace doesn't depend on external circumstances staying the same. It depends on your internal relationship with change. This wisdom makes you incredibly valuable to the universe's plan, and it also makes you incredibly dangerous to systems that profit from people's fear of change. You become a living example that transformation is possible, that people don't have to stay stuck in patterns that don't serve them, that there's life beyond the comfortable prison of familiar dysfunction. Your very existence becomes a question mark in other people's certainty about what's possible. They look at your journey from victim to victor, from wounded to whole, from dependent to sovereign, and they start wondering if they could make similar changes in their own lives. Your freedom makes them aware of their own chains. Your authenticity highlights their own masks. Your joy in solitude challenges their fear of being alone. Some of them will hate you for this awakening you trigger in them. They'll blame you for making them uncomfortable, for disrupting their peace, for showing them possibilities they're not ready to embrace. They'll call you selfish for choosing yourself, delusional for believing in your worth, arrogant for refusing to shrink. They'll try to drag you back down to their level because your elevation makes them painfully aware of their own stagnation, but others will thank you for being the permission slip they needed to start their own transformation. They'll tell you that watching your journey gave them courage to leave their toxic relationship, to set boundaries with their family, to quit the job that was killing their spirit. They'll say that your example showed them it was possible to survive the dissolution of everything familiar and emerge stronger on the other side. This is where you understand the true weight of your responsibility. Chosen One, you're not just healing for yourself, you're healing for everyone who will be inspired by your courage. You're not just breaking patterns for your own liberation, you're breaking them for everyone in your bloodline who couldn't break them themselves. You're not just choosing yourself for your own happiness, you're choosing yourself to show others that it's possible to choose themselves too. Every time you honor your truth instead of people-pleasing, you give someone else permission to honor their truth. Every time you walk away from what doesn't serve you, you show someone else that leaving is an option. Every time you choose solitude over toxic company, you demonstrate that being alone is better than being with people who don't appreciate your worth. Your healing ripples out through the collective consciousness like waves in a cosmic ocean. People you've never met start making different choices because your energy shift created a new possibility in the field. Ancestors who carried wounds for generations finally experience relief because you chose to heal what they couldn't heal themselves. Future generations will inherit a different template because you decided to break the pattern instead of perpetuating it. This is why the path of the Chosen One is both the most difficult and the most important journey a soul can undertake. You're not just changing your own life, you're participating in the evolution of human consciousness itself. You're not just finding your way home to yourself, you're creating a map that others can follow to find their way home too. You don't have to carry it alone. The moment you fully step into your role as a conscious participant in this planetary transformation, you'll discover that you're part of a vast network of other chosen ones who are doing the same work you're doing. You'll start recognizing them by their energy signature, by the way they carry themselves, by the peace in their eyes that comes from knowing who they are. These connections won't happen through dating apps or networking events. They'll happen through synchronicity, through divine orchestration, through the universe's perfect timing. You'll meet them when you're both ready, when you've both done enough work on yourselves to appreciate what you're offering each other. These relationships won't be based on need or dysfunction. They'll be based on recognition, mutual respect, and shared purpose. This is the reward for all your inner work, Chosen One. Not the elimination of challenge from your life, but the company of people who understand the value of challenge. Not the absence of growth, but the presence of people who celebrate growth. Not the end of transformation, but the joy of transforming alongside others who are equally committed to becoming their highest selves. That someone is you, Chosen One. That's why you're here, breathing this air, feeling this recognition pulse through your being, like cosmic electricity. That's why you survived when others didn't, why you kept going when everything told you to quit, why you found the strength to choose yourself when the whole world was telling you to choose everyone else. Your journey isn't over, it's just beginning to reveal its true magnificent scope. But now you know who you really are, and nothing will ever be the same. The spark that began this recognition is now a flame, and that flame will become a fire that lights the way for others who are still finding their way home to themselves. You are the proof that transformation is possible, that healing is real, that chosen ones don't just survive, they thrive, they shine, they become beacons of hope in a world that desperately needs to remember what's possible when someone chooses love over fear, truth over comfort, growth over stagnation. The universe is celebrating your awakening, Chosen One, and your adventure is just beginning.